Is the
Here we
show
are.
schedule. Are we live already?
We're live, Aaron.
I'm not ready.
I tried to trick you.
Oh my gosh. Hurry.
Welcome, everyone. I'm just trying to upset Aaron here, make sure that he, let me just...
Making sure I'm on my toes. I don't have our first story stuff on our schedule.
Right. Poor Aaron. How are we, everyone? It's been a couple of weeks since we've been able to get on, but we're back on again. We are hopefully going to have this weekly. It just sometimes things just happen, like Aaron gets stuck in thunderstorms, earthquakes.
Crazy town.
Things. Now let me quit.
Okay, I'm kind of ready.
Email. So I've done that, so we're not going to get any of those interruptions. Let me put my watch on silent because look, here we go. See, we've got to get all ready. I love it. Here we go. And then let me put my phone down on silent in case if...
Hey, Sizzle Man, Anthony, Jim, Carl.
Yeah, we got a few in already.
Hogarth.
Look at Jim. Let's put his up.
Hey, David Osler's here. How you doing, David?
I'm here. Hello from Minnesota, where the intelligent feathered creatures are conducting training flights and dining well before the migration south in the events of winter. Well, less intelligent will remain behind. Yeah, first day of spring yesterday here in Melbourne, so lovely day today as well. So we've got.
Oh, I feel sorry for you. I got a few more weeks in autumn and fall starts. My favorite.
Yeah, I know. I love fall as well, or we call it autumn. I love that time of year. It's my favourite time of the year, actually. That and spring. I love it. We're having a chat in the moderators group this morning, and we're talking about how they hate rumours. And I love Aaron's comment. He says,
Jim,
well, you better not watch today's show.
Yeah, Jim says, "Are you guys getting sick of all the Sony rumors? I had enough of it." I said, "Well, you don't want to watch our show today." Oh my gosh!
Love a good rumor. You can't go wrong with it. I love. Joe said there is a thumbs down already 30 minutes before the show started.
Always. You can count on it. You can count on it.
Look at that. Oh, I love it. What a
I saw that too.
Oh, Dana's here as well from Florida.
Hey, Dana.
Carl's in here as well. What else? Let's see. Jim also said, is there an adapter for Sony FE for this? I don't think you're going to need an adapter, Jim. Oh, is that the...
Yeah,
that's a Canon. No, that's a Canon thing, I think.
Sony has a new adapter.
I'm not sure. Sizzleman's here as well. Anthony's in here. G'day, Anthony. Kevin's
Have you seen the new adapter coming out by Sony?
Yeah, that's the A mount adapter, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Don't know how it'll work, but... I think that's probably going to signal the end of the A mount gear. I think that might be it.
That's the last nail in the coffin, as they say.
I did read a little bit about it this morning. They were saying that that new adapter or something is only going to work with tracking with a couple of lenses. I think it was the A6-600 and the A9, was it? I can't remember. I know it only worked with a couple of sensors. We're talking about a new adapter that was released today for A mount, guys. So... I think I had it in here. Where was it?
Hey, David.
Let's see. Yep.
Congratulations. You got 30,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel over the week.
How good was that? I couldn't believe it. I thought,
that's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy considering I'm a little Aussie that's out here with a very small population and stuff like that. Like it's wonderful because I never really thought I'd get there. And, as you know, too, we're both unsponsored, Aaron.
Yeah, you don't have big sponsors pushing you, throwing the newest, hottest items in your hand for the whole world to come search you.
Yeah, so really. It's fantastic because for us, it means, it's a big deal because, like I said, we do it all on our own. But you know what? I'd prefer to have 30,000 or even 1,000 or 2,000 really good subscribers that interact like what we have. To have 100,000 that really never have anything to do with you. So, I think it's better to have a really good group of people that follow us and interact with us that we have in these live shows and stuff, which is great.
I agree. Now, how long have you been doing YouTube now? Has it been, ever since I, started, well, ever since I met you, it might have been, it's over a year now. Maybe this December will be 2 years. And you've consistently always put stuff on YouTube. How long have you been doing that?
Well, I don't know now. It's probably 4 or 5 years, but I really only pushed it from the last 2 years, really. Before that, it was just to occasionally put stuff up and sort of, then it started to grow and I started to get a bit of money from it. Not that it's much, but at least you get something. But,
Yeah.
So I started to get a bit of money from it, and then people started to send me a bit of gear. And so it worked well. And then I started to sort of produce more and more. And then the live shows started to come in, which was the Sony Alpha News and Rumors. There was nothing like that at that time that was done the way that I did it. And I've sort of kept that going, and that's just grown and grown and grown now. And it's really quite successful now.
Do you think that was your main a boost in ratings from that?
Yeah, probably. And the thing that really gave me a massive lift was when I got the a7 early on, and I did the video with Kiara walking through the rainforest and the waterfalls. That is one of the ones where I gained an awful lot of subscribers. I gained stacks from when I did that. So it was interesting at the time because I think I got it. We were lucky at the time. The Australians got it before anyone else, and it was about a month early than what anyone else got it. So I was lucky in that regard that I got that. And I went out that day and we shot with Kiara. It was one of the first videos I actually did with Kiara, actually. And it took off from there, and then it sort of grew from that point. I originally started really pushing it when I sold my Nikon gear and moved to Sony, and I thought it would be a great way that I could show my change from going from Nikon over to Sony and show how the whole transition went. And it was funny because that was just as YouTube was sort of starting to take off and, stuff like that. I mean, if I was a gorgeous, attractive girl, I'll probably have a lot more.
Maybe.
Maybe. But I'm happy with what I've got, and if it grows, it grows. And if it doesn't, if it stays where it is, I'm happy because, like I said, I love the group of people that we've got. The photography, videography school now has got over 7,000 subscribers. So that's growing as well. So we've got all this stuff that's sort of related to it. Now, I mean, that's not just my channel. I mean, that's Aaron's, and it's Langston's, it's Jim's, it's everyone, because that channel is for all of us, but it's still related to what we're dealing with our broadcasts and stuff like that as well. So,
and if you're watching this for the first time and haven't checked it out, head on over to Facebook and search for, I don't know if you can show it easy. Can you show it? I forget that what's that sign?
Yes, you've got to put on.
App stand, or
let me just bring
the name of that thing.
That
That always screws everybody up. They always say, hey, I can't find this thing. I put and.
I know. It always does. Let me show you.
David's going to show you. Head on over there. What do you call it? Like it or whatever, and join the group. It's an amazing group. We do our best to weed out a lot of the bullies and the stuff that doesn't pertain to photography and videography. So we try to keep all that out and just let it be a videography and photography school type of thing where we share our photos. And anytime we put up a photo, we kind of request that you put like the settings of your camera and stuff, just because if someone's new coming over, I know the settings can be different, and people always say, what's your settings? And they get mad at that. But put your settings there, because some people might want to say, okay, so those settings kind of get me that. Kind of helps out people that are new. So put your settings there, show your videos, show your photos, keep it pertained and stuck to videography and photography. And you have a blast.
Yeah. I love the actual Facebook page. You can see here that Gilbert's put one in here, and he's put down what camera is used, what settings he's used.
Yeah, exactly.
Things like that. And it's shared by videographers as well. So, it's a terrific site that has really grown now. You can see Jess sharing videos there. Aaron talking about some A6600 pricing that was going on. We've got Aaron sharing some lovely pics of his wife. Each week we have a competition where the header is chosen. I put out a theme each week, and this week this one here, this amazing photo of this eagle flying across the water. We have weekly competitions going in, but it's just great. I mean, it's not limited really in what you share, as long as it has relevance to the industry. We stay out of politics. We stay out of all those sort of things. But if you just want to share art or learn about art or learn how to do videography, you can see here there's a Canon EOS R6 slow-mo footage that's being shared. So it's just a great site. So yeah, I'll end that anywhere there. But it is a terrific page that you can go to, and please join us. Now you've got to put the Appy Sand, which is the little A symbol. So it's photography and videography school. Wow, we just got a $20 donation too. Anthony, amazing.
Thanks, buddy.
I'll just bring it up. Let me show it. Thank you so much. A big tin of Milo. Boy, I can drink a big one with that much.
Big tin. $20 is going to give him 2 tins and some crackers.
I think Milo's only about $4. I'll be able to buy Milo for almost a year. It'll last me for that.
Yeah,
I'll be back on the alcohol soon once it warms up.
You could. Well, that's such a good donation. You could start spiking your Milos now.
Yeah, I know. I could. Let me clear that. Thank you so much, Anthony. Really appreciate that. Let me just see. Now, what did Langston say? Where are your settings for your channel? What settings?
That was Ike. I think he's just being funny.
For your channel? Oh, he's talking to someone else. I don't know what you meant.
I got lost in that one.
See, Ike's grown incredibly fast. I mean, Ike's doing amazing. He's got over 100,000
Yeah, I love watching his videos. Ike, you do a good job, bro.
Yeah, he does. I always watch Ike's videos. They're always raw, straight to the point. They're really good.
He'll just have the camera rolling and just, all these distractions around him, people talking and stuff. Man, I just can't do that. I'm just like, I zone out, and I'm like terrible for that. But Ike does a really good job. He'll do it live too. He does a lot of the live stuff, and he'll ask your questions as he's doing photos and stuff. It's like, what? So really good.
See, Rob did that. That's good, Rob. Thanks for showing that. It's photography and videography schools. So if you're going to join it, that's what you have to search for, that exact thing there. So that'll help you do
Why
that too.
Why is my quality like crap?
Yeah, I know. It's not good, is it?
Why is that?
Who knows? YouTube.
Yeah, I got to figure out why that does that, though.
Sometimes it's good, and then sometimes it just goes,
Because I'm looking at your feed looks amazing on YouTube on your channel. Mine looks like utter garbage. Yeah. But if I look at our StreamYard, how do I look on that? StreamYard.
Well, I'm looking on StreamYard, and it doesn't look good there either.
Oh, see? So it's my internet.
Yeah, so it's your internet.
But then you look good no matter where I look at it.
Well, it's just my looks, Aaron. Let's face it.
It's that new beard, yeah. That new beard, man. You're looking good.
They want to make sure the beard's sharp. See that? They're going to make sure this is sharp.
That's too funny.
How smooth do I look? Geez, I'm looking sexy at the moment.
Okay, enough of that. Next question. Oh my gosh. Let's see.
Anyway, it's that Puerto Rico internet service that Aaron's on over there. At least you're not losing
look up
power,
that
Aaron.
speed. I'm going to look at speed check
just
what's
to
it
see
called?
what it is. And the funny thing is too, we're only on 720p. StreamYard, because we're not paying for it. I think Photomiac's probably got a paid version, but because we are on the free version of this, you can only go on 720p anyway. So in theory, you'd think it should be okay because it's only using 720p.
Well, mine says 150 megabytes per second, but I don't know if that's, here, upload. Tell me if this is good, guys. Uploaded.
Share your screen so we can see it.
Well, I don't know how to, is that up or down? I don't know. Let me find another one. What's a good website to check?
I just use speed test when I'm doing it. So, yeah, who knows? You just need to, you're going to have to leave Puerto Rico, Aaron. Let's just face it, you're going to have to get out of there.
No, the internet's not that bad here. Let's see. Well, you can keep talking. I got to check this out.
It could be YouTube too, though. I mean, you don't know. Remember, we're both feeding in. It could be YouTube, so who knows?
What's important for me is my upload because...
Yes, it's your upload. Yeah, now I've got 30 megabits a second or something. I've got my upload. That's what I get, and I get 100 megabits down. That's what I'm on, which is just a reasonable plan. I don't know what yours is on your upload speed now.
Yeah, mine should be good, but right now it's only 7.
7? Well, there you go. See? That's it. That's what's causing it. So it's your upload speed's the problem.
I'm going to call them because it should be more than that.
Yeah, because like I said, I get 30 up,
that's
which is not amazing compared to... I could pay more and get, a lot higher bandwidth, but it's fine for what I'm doing. I'm quite happy with it, and I think I'll get it 100 and something down. So
Yeah, I should have a lot more than that, so I'm going to check it out. But anyways, are we going on the first story?
Yes. Now we're going to talk about the Sony. So I'll get Aaron to put that in on the timeline. We're going to talk about the new Sony announcement. So let me open up to this page. Let me quit the Photography Videography School and bring this page up. Oh, by the way, before. Oh, it doesn't talk about that in a second. I'll talk about that later. So let me open up this. So let me share the screen, because then Aaron and myself are going to talk about this and see what we sort of think. But Sony have announced, or they haven't announced, but they're saying, Sony Alpha rumors are saying that it will be announced sometime this month. And they're saying it's the a7c now. So it's not going to be the A5 or A6 that we originally thought that the camera was going to be. So they're saying it's going to be this camera that's going to be announced. Now it basically is an A6600, but it's got a full frame body, full frame sensor inside that body. Now, if you look at the side, you can see here the difference between the two of them. So it's easier in a way to sort of look at this sort of view down here, because you can see the difference too between the two of them. And if you look at the top one, you can see that, you know, you're missing all the top part and things like that.
The EVF hump.
The prism, the EVF. But they are now saying it's going to have a built-in EVF. So I don't know where that's going to be.
Probably like the 6600, right? Right on the corner there?
Probably, I suppose, it is there. Oh, yeah, it's there, yeah. Yeah, so they put it there, didn't they? But they were originally saying a pop-up EVF, but now they're saying it's not going to have a pop-up EVF. It's going to be permanently built in. And I think that's a much better idea. Don't you think, Aaron?
Oh, yeah, I don't like that pop-up stuff. I tried it before. I never owned one, but in the stores I've tried it, and it's just kind of wonky, and yeah, that's not good.
No, I mean, look, this is a really interesting play by Sony, and I think from what I've been reading, and there's another article as well that has come out, that they're saying they want to concentrate more on video, they want to concentrate more on mobile phones, and they even hinted that they might incorporate the mobile phone technology in with the camera technology. And I thought,
they have to.
Man, look, imagine having your camera with a phone back, like, you know, the Xperia, I think they're Sony Xperia phones. Well, imagine having your Xperia look on the back of it, which is like your phone, and it could even have a cell card in it. You know, I mean, you could even directly go online. It's possible.
I was in Best Buy. Yeah, keep going.
No, and I was going to say, with an amazing lens and stuff like that on the front, like have a phone interface with the camera sensor. What were you going to say, Aaron?
Well, I was in Best Buy few years ago, and Samsung had a white, it looked just like a camera, a fixed lens, but it looked just like a camera, but it had the full-fledged Android Samsung phone, OS in it. And I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But of course, it worked just like a Samsung phone, but it shaped like a small camera. It had the lens on it, but of course the specs of the lens wasn't that good and all that. So I kind of, I forget what the ISO is on that, or the aperture and all that stuff wasn't that great. But they had the idea, they did it. They just didn't. I don't think it sold well, because maybe people who want phones that aren't photographers think, just a regular phone is good enough, whereas the person who does photography saw the specs of the camera portion of that and was like, so I don't think it sold good. So that might have told them, like, yeah, this won't do good. But man, if Apple, I think Apple could take the Milo.
No, I was just saying exactly.
I think Apple could really, hammer out, could really lead in the camera industry if they decided to open up a camera thing. Because if they were the first to put the iOS in a camera or something like that. So if Sony did that, when they're already there, is what I'm getting at, is Sony already has the phones, they already have the cameras, just like Google did at one time, but make it with good specs. Sony could just take off with that, and that would be really a consideration to get for a lot of people, I think, if it had the ergonomics of a real camera,
Well, they were saying that they're the only company that has everything basically in-house,
Yeah,
that they can do
exactly.
the whole lot.
Sensors. I
And
mean,
it does make sense.
sheesh.
Like the Xperia, unfortunately, that Sony Xperia cancelled in Australia, so that you can't buy a Sony Xperia phone here in Australia. And obviously they weren't selling. But I think here we're really into just like the Samsung and the iPhone. So they've sort of, that market has been captured. So Sony didn't have a market here. But
Yeah.
from what I've seen, the Sony phones are really beautiful, and the interface is beautiful and everything else.
Yeah.
Like, imagine incorporating that type of interface into the camera body,
Yeah,
just sort of
exactly.
plastering it on the back. It may be the future of something that they bring out. Now, it might not have the phone incorporated into it, but it could have the same like interface. It'd be wonderful to have like your iPhone or that sort of interface on the back of a camera, and young people would love it. I know photographers may not, but the young people coming up that are using phones and your eye sort of gear and all that sort of stuff would adore that type of interface, because it's already there.
Well,
and it's all
like
touch.
Like Axeman said, and what I was kind of referring to is, if my Sony a7 III had iOS on it, I mean, that would be just the most amazing thing, just, oh my gosh. Just like my a7 III, you're not compromising nothing. It just has Apple iOS on it, or Android if you're an Android user.
Yeah.
More than likely, it would be Android, just because, Apple is exclusive to their own stuff. But man, can you just imagine that experience with a camera that has no, they don't make it just for I don't know what you call it, a one-trick pony type thing. It's like a real camera with that kind of software. I would love it.
Yeah, Mark just said lift your audio, so I just did. So it's interesting. Now, looking at the camera itself, I do think that this could be the death knell for APS-C. Unfortunately, I think that might be the case. Now that Sony are bringing out this body, camera in the body, and they're also releasing a number of lenses as well. Now, it's the same mount. I know a lot of people are going around saying that the mount's different. It's exactly the same mount. So you would be able to use these if you wanted to on your full frame A7 series cameras, your normal A7 series cameras. But I think what they're sort of looking at here is they're going to be a sort of more low quality, very small, might be like the Sony 35mm, the f2.8 version, that's really tiny, that you could sit on the front of this. And they're saying it might be actually included with a kit lens. They're saying here a new lens is included, something like a 28-60, 4.5 to 5.6. So that's what they're saying will be included, and if you look, it's sort of these tiny little lenses that you can put on. So not only are they releasing this new full frame camera, but they're releasing a new series of lenses as well. What do you think about that, Aaron?
Yeah, the lenses, some people I was reading in some of the forums, I think they were a little, these are all rumors, so I don't know. I have no inside whatever, but it's probably going to be just like f2.8 lenses that they're really gearing toward, like pancake small lenses, kind of like the Samyang. Samyang has the really small lenses. The 24 millimeter f2.8 is really small and lightweight. It's for full frame cameras, so it can be done. Sony just haven't gone that route yet. So they'll probably make a line. Will it be inexpensive? I don't know what the pricing would be on that. However, there'll probably be f2.8 type lenses, maybe f4 type zoom lenses, where you can have a 70 to what is it? A 70 24 to 70, type f4 lens that would be small and all that type stuff. So I don't think it's a new mount or anything new. It's probably just going to be dedicated to a line of compact lenses, basically.
See, it really is an interesting. It's not one that I will go out and buy, but it seems to me that, and it's interesting because Ike said it. He said that basically it's the same as the A7S III, but more expensive. But I suppose what you've got to think about in here as well is that you've got. Let's look at the specs first. So I'll show you what they're sort of predicting this is going to be.
Read all that, and then we'll go back into it.
Mid-September, they're saying it's going to be announced. Similar A7 III specs with a 24 megapixel sensor, so it's probably going to be the same sensor. It might be improved processor or something like that, though, because it's a much newer camera. It has the same A7S fully articulating screen, which will be the touch interface, which is really good because they're marketing this camera at vloggers. It says the body side is the A6 600 with the EVF in the corner. So now they're not saying the pop-up EVF anymore. The camera will be marked for vloggers and YouTubers. The battery is the Z battery, the same as what we've already got. USB Type-C, has a single SD card slot. It has both mic in and headphone jack, Wi-Fi, and the price will be above the A7 III, 2,100 euros. And there's new lenses that are going to be coming out, and they've got the code for V for those new lenses. So it looks like when you're looking at it, they're pricing this above the A7 III, which is interesting. But remember, it's going to be a different camera. It's like the bigger brother to the ZV-1. I mean, that's really what this looks like. So the ZV-1 is your minimalistic type vlogging camera, which I think really I'd probably prefer to have than this one. But as I've used this more and more, I love it. But so it looks like now this is going to be, the A7 III is going to be the entry-level camera pricing. Then you're going to get this, which will be the upper vlogging YouTube type camera. Now remember, because they're doing this, they're marketing this for YouTube and also for vloggers and things like that, it's probably not as necessary to have your dual card slots as it is, say, if you're using it for a professional means, like if you're using an A7 III for weddings and portraits. What do you think about that, Aaron? Are you worried about that only having one card, or do you think it fits its need for what it is?
I think every camera should have it now. I mean, have you ever seen the size of a micro SD card? They're like this teeny. I mean, you could put an internal memory in all these cameras. Pick your gigabyte. I don't care how much. Let's say 64 gigabytes. Megabytes. Little card like that fits right on the sensor, right on the motherboard in there. Like nobody even knows it's there. So you have this internal thing, and then you have one SD card for old school ways of sending things around or mailing something off or whatever. But then you always have that backup inside. That would be cool. If they did that, that would be a really cool thing. I haven't heard any rumors about it. That's just an idea that I thought would be cool. My thing is, this camera, the A7C, sounds more like the entry-level full frame, like the A7 III should have been, and then the A7 III should have been the mid-tier. Now, if we went along with that, then the A7 IV would, and everything would kind of fit. But now that they brought this, A7 III and a smaller body out, it's got to have something better than the A7 III in order to be a tier above it. And we're not even talking about price, just features. Why would you buy a less capable camera when you can buy the A7 III just for the size alone and a flippy screen? Maybe they're thinking that. That's kind of a hard sell for me, giving up an EVF, giving up an SD card, and other features and functions of a A7 III. So it almost sounds like this A7C should have been what the A7 III should have been as the entry level, and then A7 III and so forth. It makes more sense to me. So with the specs that we know I don't think I would get it just for the size. I have the A6000 and the A7 III, not here in my lap here. They're not that much different in size. They are like
a little bit.
A little bit. Like if you take the hump EVF off of a Sony A7 III, they're almost about the same size. I mean, it's just so small, and I couldn't see me losing features for something just that much smaller. I mean, so I don't know. It's kind of like one of those things. I think if they come out with lenses, full frame lenses that equal or better the APS-C version of the lenses, then maybe it's kind of cool to go that way. If not, I think an APS-C A6000 and a A6000 line probably do you better. It's going to be cheaper. It's going to be that little bit smaller. The lenses are fairly small. So yeah, it's kind of a weird camera for me to get my head around. That's what makes me think that something's not right, that they would price it above the A7 III with less features. So I think there's something missing there. I don't know why Sony would do that.
Well, we don't know yet that this camera, if it is priced at that, this may be give us 4K 60 with a decent amount of time. We don't know because we're only looking at rumors at this stage. So this might be the feature that they give people that makes the camera worth more than what the A7 III is. If they
Yeah,
gave usable 4K, there's talk sort of about it that it's going to have, you might have to use S&Q mode, and you know, and really that's sort of useless, really. But, so if that's the case, it's not really a usable feature. But if it is a usable 4K 60 without a massive crop, remember, they're not going to give you too much because they'll want you to buy the A7S III.
And then the A7S4 is coming out.
Yes.
So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they can't give you too much in it. And I think the difference that we're going to look at when the A7 IV comes out is you're going to see it'll obviously have the new dual card slots that also take the Express A type cards.
Absolutely.
So you'll have that in it. It'll have the same touch screen that now will be universal. It'll have the bigger body. I think they may even give a bump up in resolution now. If this has 24 megapixels, they may up this to 30 odd, or something like that. And you'll get full workable 4K 60 without time limits. It might be lower on bit depths and things like that. And you won't get the A7S type features, but you'll get a lot usable. They will make the A7 IV. They have to make that a big upgrade. Sorry, the A7 IV, a big upgrade from buying this. They have to justify the cost between the two of them. The interesting thing is, it'll be interesting to see who gets the A7 III and who will go for this one. I mean, if you're a professional, I'd still recommend the A7 III, Aaron. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, that's the complicated thing. I'm not confused about that A7 IV. I'm more confused about that, like everybody, the A7 III and the A7C. I don't think I would pay more if I'm buying a camera. Upgrading is who knows, but if I'm buying a new camera, do you save a little money and get a more featured camera? Now, I don't think, for me, I love flippy screens. I mean, I do lots of low shots, I do lots of high shots, and then all the other video type features for a flippy screen. But to give up dual card slots, which some people don't care, but the full-size EVF and other things. So for me, I think the A7C would have to have something substantial that, like, wow, you can now upload to the cloud, you know, or something that's like, geez, or like Jim said, global shutter, which I don't think. But
I don't think so.
I don't think it's going to be that like whoa feature. I think it's going to have that flippy screen that people wanted, the 4K 60p with maybe a little bit more. Maybe 200 or 150 megabits per second, or whatever it's called for video. Maybe just little stuff like that. That's a little better than the A7 III, and it's smaller. So I really think that's what it's going to be. But is it something that I would give up a Sony a7 III for, or if I'm buying a new one? I don't think so, unless you're a 4K 60p type of work. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat? Let us know. And if you're watching this later, leave it in the comments, because me and David go in there and answer questions as well.
Well, Mark also said they better slot a full-size HDMI. That they won't put a full-size HDMI into this. The A7 IV, they probably will, but you won't get a full-size HDMI in this one. There's no way.
So in the end, what do you think, David? The A7C, do you think it's just a confusing thing, or do you think that there's going to be something in there that's, wow, now that's a feature that I got to have?
I think, to be completely clear about how I feel about this, I think Sony have got nothing to lose on this, because it's not like they're taking the A7 III away. So I think it might be a good option for them. And the reason why I'm starting to think of this is because the more I've used the ZV-1, the more I love it. Now,
that's
if you
like the vlogging camera.
Yeah, but if you wanted to have a full frame version of that, you know, it's a good camera that has a fully fold-out, flip-out screen, which is what I've been crying for so long. The only thing really that I think is missing in this camera that would make me want to go out and get it is the dual card slots. If it had dual card slots, I think I probably would be interested in getting it. But
me too.
But for YouTubers and vloggers and things like that, they're not going to care. They won't give a hoot about that. So I think Sony have got nothing to lose by having this as an option in their whole range.
Yeah,
they're already using parts that are probably there.
I agree.
The fold-out screen is now already there because of the A7S, so it's going to have that same fold-out screen, the same touch interface.
And if it's the A6600 body, they already got that.
Yep, they've already got the body that's there already. All the EVFs and everything are there. So really, it's just another option. I mean, if people don't want to buy it, they don't want to buy it, and they can move up to the next model or the model below it, which is the A7 III. So, I mean, I don't, like Sisame said, I don't vlog. I vlog and I care. So it's interesting. And I think it's a good option that Sony have got now, that if someone wants to get into full frame, and that might be something, people walk into a camera shop and they hear these buzz terms and everything else, and they'll hear a term say, I want to do full vlogging and stuff like that, but I want it to be full frame. Well, then at least Sony now have a camera that meets that need.
Yep, full frame vlogging. Ooh, buzzwords, let's get it.
Yeah. I mean, apart from that, I would be waiting for the a7 IV if that was the case. This camera is not for me. I mean, like I said, the type of vlogging and stuff that I do, I'm quite happy with the ZV-1. In fact, I think it's excellent for what it does. So I think for me, it's really good for that. But, I mean, if you are into other things, I mean, if you want full frame, it's good. Yeah, I know. I did trash it. I said, David Osa, remembering the day, the specs. Yeah, and I did. I always admit when I'm wrong. Tony, I know I was wrong with that.
I trash it then and I trash it now. I don't like it. But
yeah. So I've changed completely since I got it.
Yeah, you changed. I remember that. I am the Brown. I do remember that. That's funny.
Yeah, it's changed the way I shoot for YouTube because of the focusing, that how you can focus for product photography, where it focuses incredibly fast when you move it up. It makes it very easy to do product photography for me. And it's sometimes it's no better if you're using vlogging side than using, say, my iPhone. And I think that's similar, that they have similar footage for that part of it. But the other features that it gives me, like I said, that focusing and stuff like that is just wonderful. But if you want the full frame look, I think Sony have got nothing to lose with what they've done here. And I think really everyone is just a winner. If you don't want it, well, you don't have to buy it and you can move on to the next camera. But if you want a full frame vlogging YouTube type camera that, yes, doesn't have dual card slots, maybe compromised in your 4K 60, but let's face it, most YouTubers and stuff like that are probably going to be shooting in 1080p anyway, so they're probably not going to matter much if there's not too much 4K 60p in this camera anyway. If you want that, you're going to have to get the a7S III or the a7 IV, which will be announced.
I think you're right about that. They're going to make this camera that's not like, wow, global shutter or uploading straight to the cloud or internal memory. It's just going to be another option. They have all the parts. It may be a little faster processor, maybe to get 4K out of it, if that's what they need for it. So they might say, ooh, new processor, 4K 60, and then all the other a7 III type stuff. So that makes sense to me. But having it a little more than the a7 III is a little strange to me.
I thought it would have been under it.
Yeah, a little couple $100 under. That way, okay, I'm getting a little less, but a little bit more, but not quite. So that it feels better in my brain to pay something under the a7 III. So then you've got more of a tiered type thing, because putting that above it just like it makes no sense. But I think you might be right. Again, they're just rumors. You said it's going to come with a lens. Well, maybe the body only is actually going to be cheaper than the a7 III without the lens. So that price that we're getting of $2,100, whatever it was, that might be the kit. So without it, with the body only, it might be, take off $250 or something from that. Then that would kind of make sense a little bit to me more than it does now. So
see, Brand also said perhaps they're trying to get rid of the A6 6000 bodies, and that could be the case too. They might have a bucket load of those that they want to get rid of. The next camera that they release like this could be in a new A7 type body. I mean, that could be the thing. But like I said, it's interesting. I mean, they've got nothing to lose by doing it, so I suppose good on them. And they may give more than what we think. I mean, because it's only a rumor at this stage, there might be something in that justifies the cost being above the a7 III. We just have to wait and see. But we should know within the next couple of weeks. So, interesting anyway.
Yes.
All right, so let's go on to the second story, because we wanted to talk about gear acquisition, and this is interesting because let me just share my screen, and I wanted to show you this. Oh, let me just hide that first. We go application window, this one. I read an interesting story. Aaron and myself wanted to talk about this for a while. Why gear addiction doesn't make you a better photographer. And the interesting thing is, though, I fall for this because I fall for gas all the time.
Well, yeah, so do I.
I do it, and I
Even though
love
I know
gears. So I'm going to preempt this to say I am one of the people that loves the new gear and things, but I also want to talk about how really most of the time it doesn't make your photography any better. And I'm going to show a photography that I love looking at through my Facebook page, the Photography Videography School, ISA. I'm going to show him. He'll probably be embarrassed if he watches this video, but I'm going to show some of his work because he uses an a6 camera, and often it's uses kit lenses, and his work is just incredible. And remember, really, if you're talking about it, yes, the gear is lovely to have, and if there's a need that you wanted to go and get better gear for a need, like I said, 4K 60 was a need for me. And that's why I really do want the a7S III. Because of that feature alone, makes it worthwhile for me. But will it make me a better videographer or photographer? No. Because the only thing that makes you a better photographer or videographer is art. And that's the thing. Do you agree with that, Aaron?
I do. I agree with it so much because if you've ever followed my YouTube channel, you know that I usually use the less expensive gear over the more expensive gear, and I do that professional for video and photography. And I'm just someone who I don't like to spend a lot of money in gear. I usually, when I buy something, I buy something that will be good enough that how do you say that? Good enough for me and the client. I wouldn't just buy something that's cheap and I know it's crappy and I'm not happy with it, and neither are my clients, and just go with that. I buy with the cheapest that I can that makes me happy, that looks good to me and my clients look good. If I were buying something that all my clients were saying, oh man, this just doesn't look good, then of course I would probably buy something more expensive. But all my life I've always bought, or my career of being a photographer and videography, I always bought the less than expensive gear. So much I've done videos where I said, you know, I'm giving up these expensive lenses for these cheaper ones. And man, I got like, oh my gosh, so many people mad at me and like just really trashed me for that. Like, oh my gosh, you're not a pro and all this stuff. It's just like, that just proves a point that how many people don't really understand the fact that expensive gear or more gear doesn't make your photography better. There's a saying that I've seen in a lot of vlogs and stuff where if you're going to buy a new camera, ask yourself this: is it going to make you more money, or is it going to make your job easier as a photographer, not necessarily better quality? A better quality depends on what you do. If you're shooting with the 12 megapixel sensor and all of a sudden you start getting clients say, hey, we love your work, we want you to do, you know, big prints on the side of buildings in Los Angeles, then you're going to probably say, okay, I think I might need to upgrade now. But most of the time, everybody watching this, you know, you can have average gear and still get clients. And ask yourself, is it going to make you more money, or is it going to make you your job easier, like eye autofocus or something? Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I mean, there is things in technology that can make you know, it change. There's certain things like the AF, like Aaron said, made a massive difference. If you're shooting things, if you're doing sports and things like that, it can make a massive difference as well. I suppose if you're talking about the art side of things, though, like if we look at this document, and I'll put this down below so you can have a read of it as well. He's basically saying that one of the traps that photographers can fall into when seeking to grow in their craft is gear acquisition syndrome. And I suppose this is true. Like, I guarantee all of us, and, you know, I mean, I'm a full-time photographer. I probably only know a third of what my camera could probably do. If I started to really get into how all the menus were and everything else, I'd probably be amazing. But, you know, you probably only do sort of work out a tiny bit about what a camera can do. But he's saying wedding photographer made this entertaining 7-minute video explaining why gear addition isn't the path towards success in photography. And they're saying, imagines a conversation in which he tells a 2007 version of himself to avoid the temptation of continually pouring money into the latest and greatest camera and lenses. Jackson then shows how a 200 digital SLR kit from 2007, so it's a D300 and a 35mm lens, and they each cost about 100 used, these days can still be used to create sellable work. And the interesting thing is, I guarantee if you probably did show the clients what you're doing and the images that you're taking, they never would notice. They would not notice that this was a camera from 2007 or whatever it was, 2017. I mean, the images are good. But let me just show you ISA's work, because I want to show you this, guys, that is in our photography videography school because he always shares wonderful work. So let me just clear this.
You remember how many times I've said on this channel that I could use my Canon T2i from like 11 years ago and take photos today, and nobody would ever knew that it wasn't my A7 III or A7R III when I had it. Nobody would know. From the people who saw my work and how they viewed it, they would never know the difference. So
yep.
Yeah.
Let me share this screen. And this one. So I'll show you a couple of things that Isa has done.
Yeah, he's so good.
He always uses the a6000 camera. Now, if we look at, say, these ones in here, these have been shot with the a6000 and the Sigma 30mm. And he uses a Godox AD 200 flash. But if we open this up, let me see.
Basically, you got to know the limitations of your camera, which he clearly knows.
You can see the images that he's taken here. I mean, they're beautiful. Like, his work is always stunning. If I click in, let's see if I can show you some ones that he shows here. Whenever I see one of his images, I always know it's Isa's work that's there. But let me just go back.
Indeed, Jim.
Because I'll show you some other stuff that he did with some models here that he does. His work is always so beautiful. This is another one that he's done here with the A6000 camera. I mean, his work's beautiful. And it's interesting to see how many people do you see that are sharing the A6000. And, you know, and his work just sells itself just by looking at it. You'd never know that this was done with a cheap APS-C type camera. Let me see if I can find some other stuff that he's done. You see here that, you know, some of his images here, that it's just beautiful. I mean, it's gorgeous. The rendering is beautiful. His lighting is on point. His posing is always on point. Isa is the perfect example where he shows that it's the art that matters, not the gear that you use. And whenever I see him, I always comment and say it's just beautiful. Your typical work that we're seeing here, Isa. You know, it's always beautiful work. Stunning. I just wanted to see if I could find his dancer shoots because he did some stuff there. You know, he does black and white stuff as well. It's beautiful. And like I said, if you look online, this is a perfect example where you sort of see someone that can inspire you for what they do with the work that they do, and it's complete art, posing, technical expertise that he has that gives him that ability to show beautiful work. And I just wanted to sort of mention Isa. Like I said, I didn't even ask him. I mean, this was a dancer that he did a while ago. Again, with the A6000 series camera. Beautiful.
Very nice.
Stop sharing. Yeah, so I'll put that document down below because you might be able to have a read of it. But I thought it was a good thing to show you that, you know, if you can't afford to have really expensive gear, do not believe that you have to have expensive stuff. And Isa's work just proved that. Now, I'm not saying don't go out and buy it because, look, I love my 135. I adore that. And it's an expensive lens, but that certainly gives me an incredible look for what I want to produce.
Yeah, it gives you something that other lenses can't. So it's justified, you know?
Yeah, like the A9 gives me some features that I can get that I couldn't have got if I was shooting anywhere else, like when I'm trying to capture dance photos where they're jumping and I can get that perfect moment. So the gear does help. But what I'm trying to say to you is before you have to go out and they're saying your stream looks great now, Aaron, too. So before you go out and purchase really expensive gear, make sure you learn the art side first. Really learn that down pat. Learn how to manipulate lighting. Learn that. Learn posing. Learn all these things. I think you probably would get more value by, say, spending some time and doing good, I'm not saying crappy workshops, but doing really meaningful workshops one-on-one or with someone that you love and pay some money to them, you probably would extend your ability to get beautiful photos more than buying new gear. And it's just something that, you know, that you should sort of think about. We just wanted to sort of say that your low-end cameras can be incredible, and ISA was the perfect example of showing that, you know, the A6000 series, which is, I think it's one of the highest selling cameras that are out there. I think it's still the B&H #1 camera that's being sold, the highest Sony camera that's being sold. So, you know, it's just beautiful. And I just wanted to talk to you about that. So, yeah. Now, the last story before we just open up a little bit to Q&A, because I wanted to ask Aaron about this. We haven't got anything to bring up about it, but I just wanted to talk about, Aaron, like, I know with the A7S3 that's coming out that has incredible autofocus, and we've seen it with the EOS R5 and the R6 and the Nikon cameras that are out now as well. Do you think that we're getting to the point where manual focus is no longer required? Now, I wanted to talk to you about this more because you're more of a you know, videographer than what I am. But do you think it's almost getting to the stage now where you could do without manual focus, or do you still need it?
Well, I still think certain shots, like if you're doing something in a professional setting, like, you know, you don't want to retake this if you don't have to. If you've got 2 actors and you're paying them really good money, this is for, you know, like big time of production here, and that actor, you know, they could take 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 20 takes to get the tears rolling and to really get into it, and to have an autofocus just miss it a little bit where it went to the eyes and here comes the tears and then it just goes back, you ruin the shot. So it has to be super, absolutely 100% in every situation perfect before someone would want to use it in an absolute expensive production. When it comes to lower production stuff where you might not have a focus puller and you might be doing a shot that's not easy to rack, then yeah, why not? You can just take it over, do it again. If it's off a little bit, it's a short film, not much of a big deal. But I think it's good enough now that you could probably use it in lower production type stuff where it's not going to be a huge, I mean, can you imagine telling some famous movie star, can we do that again? You know, the automatic focus went off. She goes, oh my gosh, it took me, you know, hours to get that emotion. That would be a disaster. And you just don't want to, you don't want to attempt that. I'm sure someday it's going to be just absolutely like tried and true, and like this thing will not miss no matter if you put flashlights behind the person and cop sirens going around, it's just always there. I'm sure it's going to get to that because we see it getting so good now. But as of right now, I don't think it's there for big time productions. But for smaller productions, when you don't have a focus puller, yeah, I think you could do, I mean, I've seen so many tests so far that even on the Sony a7 III, I could walk from one side of the room and walk all the way up, and it does like a really good job. So that's my take on it. Is that what you're kind of, you know, thinking about, David?
Yeah, I mean, see, I've found now with this is why I love using the A9 particularly so much for video, because it never lets me down with the autofocus. And I'm finding that really the only times where I will do manual focus now is if it's in extremely low light and the camera is struggling, like I'm talking about really extremely low light, or I'm using a slider and I want to reveal something where, you know, the problem with autofocus is if you're revealing and it's behind a wall and it's coming in, it'll focus on the wall and then it takes a while to then grab focus on whatever you're looking at. So I would focus on say the bride, and then I'd take it behind the wall in manual focus and then just bring it out so that the focus doesn't change. So there's sort of areas like that where I would do manual focusing. Or if you're trying to shoot through it, say a tree foliage, you know, to get that nice, beautiful green out of focus look, it might focus on the tree rather than the subject behind it. So that's where you'd have to sort of go into manual focus. But yeah, apart from that, I just don't use manual focus much anymore because the autofocus is getting so good, Aaron.
Well, I'll tell you this, I haven't did any I've done the last video projects I did were commercials, and I used a7 III with the autofocus. I didn't use manual focus, so that would be a first for me to when I had the Sony a7 III, which I've had for like what 3 years-ish now or something when it came out. So all throughout those 3 years, I did video productions, and I've always used autofocus. I did not do any short films within the last 3 years. So in that scenario, I'm not sure. But yeah, I would do autofocus on the Sony a7 III, especially when I'm on the gimbal, of course, and stuff like that. Now, when I had the Panasonic cameras and I did short films, video productions, all that stuff, or the Blackmagic cameras. I don't know about the Blackmagic. The pocket cameras, the Panasonic cameras, I would use the touchscreen to do rack focusing by touching.
Yeah.
And it wasn't
so you can
best.
do that with the a7S III as well.
Yeah, the Panasonics is how I would do it, although it wasn't quite the best because with that, what's that depth of defocus, even with that, when you click on, let's say you have an actor here and you click on their face, okay, and action, and then there's an actor coming in and you want to roll this way or just tap on him or her coming in, it would still do that little wobble. So, I did that on some things. Now, even just doing that, like say on the Sony a7S III, it's such a smooth transition. So even if you're not using continuous, we should be more clear, using continuous autofocus, you could do a single touch focus, and even today it's much softer. So those things I would absolutely use in a more a production that is a little more time. You don't want to screw things up, because I find that the touch focus is just so smooth. It's great. Continuous autofocus on higher productions, I don't think so. I wouldn't use, but on everything that me and you probably do, I think it's to the point where it's pretty darn good. It's good enough, that's for sure.
Yeah, from what I saw of the a7S III, that touch racking to focus in manual focus looks really good.
Yeah, I would use that over rack focusing probably now.
Yeah.
Not continuous autofocus, but the touching,
Now, Rob made a good comment, though, because he actually said here that astrophotography, you do need to do manual focus. Yeah, because I always go sort of to infinity and then back it off until you see the stars sharp. So, yeah, I understand that. As well. Jim said manual focus I use for close-ups of blossoms. Yeah, because sometimes it can't get that. You're correct, Jim. Occasionally I use it in portraits for practice, or with a recent model to get through her amazing hair.
Well, speaking of manual focus, I use it absolutely every day. I didn't mention this. For photography of products and jewelry photography, I usually, like if I'm doing a ring with an 85 millimeter lens on a full frame camera, and I'm, can you see? Yeah, if this is the ring and I'm like this close to it with an 85 millimeter, the depth of field is so shallow that I probably take a good 25 to 40 shots, depending on the angle of the ring, and then focus stack those in software. So every day I use manual focus. For video, is what I was referring to later. But photography, I still use manual focus all the time. For jewelry photography, for fun, me and Dana talked about this, using old lenses that are manual focus only. For photography, if you're not really fast paced and you're out there having fun and you're doing artsy type stuff where it's not critical, street photography, there's that I forget that rule where you focus a certain amount of feet in front of you, so your field of view, your focus, depth of focus, so you can grab stuff quick. More than likely, people use autofocus today. So for fast stuff like that, I would use autofocus. But for fun, artsy stuff, I love to use manual focus.
Are you using, like Carl said, he prefers manual focus for your macro? All your jewelry shots are
it's always manual. Oh, yeah, I was explaining that. I have to, because I have to, on the a7 III, it's really cool. I don't know if it's the default button, but it's the left button up by your finger there. When you click it once, it shows you a box where your next click is going to zoom in. And I just double click that and move it around, and then manual focus on the diamond edge, and then take the photo. And then, so yeah, you have to, punch in and manual focus to get all those 40 beautifully racked, sharp images.
I mean, people are coming up with ideas of obviously like lightning strikes and stuff here as well, because you don't want it to be focusing on something and stuff like that. I suppose you could just use infinity, depending on how far the lightning's away. But some people do, like Venom saying they prefer manual focus all the time. I know some portrait photographers that shoot manual focus all the time.
Manual. Yeah.
So it just depends.
Yeah, it depends.
I love IAF though. I've got to admit that I am such a lover of the IAF. It's just changes
me and Dana
the way you shoot.
Yeah, no, me and Dana was talking about this a lot on, it's fun to manual focus. I really like that manual focus. But man, when it comes down to it, and you got your model over there, and I have to pull the camera down low like this, I used the Sony a7 III with the inexpensive Sony 50 millimeter f1.8. We know the a7 III doesn't have a flippy screen on it. It was a beautiful model on this beautiful beach. I've showed the photos before, and I was doing some low shots. She was on a rock, you know, like going like this type of shot, you know, with her elbow here. And I couldn't see the screen because the blades of grass were in the screen. But I completely 100%, even on that inexpensive lens, completely relied on eye autofocus to nail every single one of those shots. So manual focus, that is not going to happen because I couldn't even see the screen. So yeah, once you know, bouncing back from manual focus and eye autofocus, it's just like, man, just give me the eye autofocus, and it's just like, it's on all the time. Runway models coming down runways is another thing, or brides coming down. I mean, try to manual focus that, you're just going to miss a whole bunch. If you got eye autofocus, freaking use it.
And fusion, yeah, there's no way I can
fusion,
without using auto exposure.
Yeah, so
there's no way. All right, well, let's show our photos. Aaron, did you have one you wanted to show?
Did. I have three, since we were talking.
Let's see if they come up.
Yeah, let's see if I remember how to do this. We are going to share screen, window.
There we go.
Tell me if you see that.
Yep. Nice.
Oh, look, I moved it. Okay, so we're talking about the Sony a6000. This is shot with the Sony a6000. I used to carry 2 of those for weddings. 1 card slot, I know. I would always back those. Every time I would do a wedding with a 1 card slot, whether it was my Panasonics or Sony a6000 in this case, I would do the getting ready shots, and then I would offload those to my phone while we go to the church. Once we do the church, I would offload those while we go to the reception. So it wasn't very fun to do that, but I just wanted to make sure at least I have them here in case I have all the photos of the day on the card, and then the card would, you know, poop out, then I would lose everything. So at least I would have all the photos up to that point. But 1 card slot, if you're doing the first kiss, and then it corrupts on you while you're, you know, finishing up, then you lost the first kiss, so, you know, whatever. But anyways, I just wanted to share this since we're talking
Dynamic
about the Sony
range
a6000.
is pretty good on that camera, isn't it? For the price it is.
No, it's a really, really good camera. If you don't mind battery life, when you're doing photos, battery life, I mean, even on the Fuji cameras, before they came out with the bigger cameras and the Z cameras and Sony, the battery life's going to last you a long time if you're running around the town doing photos. I mean, I don't think I had to change a battery on any of these cameras if I'm just doing street type of photography, doing photo shoots for 3 hours. I mean, it depends on how many photos you take, but I never really cared about the battery life so much. Weddings is different because you're shooting a lot and you don't want to miss the thing. But anyways, here's a Sony a6000 shot here. I mean, look at the dynamic range. We printed this out really large. Of course, it's 24 megapixel. It looked beautiful. Can you see the next photo?
Yep.
This is in a dark church with the Sony a6000. I was using prime lenses. I don't remember exactly the ones, but they're f1.8 prime lenses. And I mean, it's clean. This was in a church. This isn't a bright church. It's your average low light type church. Sony a6000. I nailed the first kiss right there because that thing can shoot like crazy. You know, and you got the first kiss right at that moment that I like to get right before they touch right there. So a6000, no flash on none of these. Oh, I did use flash on this photo. I did use a flash, of course, to my right to light them up. The sun in the background backlit them there, but no flash here. And then this was a getting ready shot before we left of that same wedding and stuff. That was another a6000. Forget the lens, f1.8 lens. On here, I'm using an Octabox, the same. Oh no, I was using a 24-inch umbrella shoot through on this a6000. I mean, if you don't have a whole bunch of money and you want to get a camera, just like our friend in our Facebook group that David showed, it makes amazing photos. Look at that. I mean, if you know how to light your scene, or you're using available light and you're not skyrocketing ISO, which you probably shouldn't do in most cameras, it's going to look amazing. So there's my shots.
Cool.
Your turn.
I'll just bring the one up that I did. Funny thing was, that's on Instagram, I thought it was the a7 III, but it was the a6400.
Oh, by the way, they still sell the a6000 even though it's really old. And I think it goes for like $400 brand new or something like that.
Let me share this. Application. This one's Kiara, actually. Why not share
Hyperfocal point.
Yes, hyperfocal point.
You're right.
This was shot with the A6 400. I remember on the day we were shooting, Kiara was actually videoing me. It was for a bit of a funny
haven't seen this one.
video. This was shot with the 55mm, so it gives you the 85mm focal length. So it was shot with a 55 Sony lens. I love that lens. It's still one of my favorite lenses, the Zeiss 55 Sony. I just adore it. 1.8. Shot at 1.8, obviously. Tack sharp. I love this shot too because of the movement in Kiara's hair and the backlighting around the edge, the rim lighting that's sort of coming through here. No flash was used here. It was just basically overexposed a little bit for the background and to light Kiara's face up from the front. But to me, it's just the movement totally that makes this shot. I love that hair coming across the face. Some people would hate that, but I adore natural sort of looking shots where the movements is in, you know, in that hair there. Even the hair sort of wisping out on the side there would annoy some people, but as an artist, I find I like it. So I left it all there. It's actually as it is. So yeah, I just wanted to show one that I'd done with the A6 400.
That's the 860-400 with the Zeiss?
Zeiss 55, yeah. So it gives me the 85 focal length.
Also, I love the tilt of the shoulders. A lot of people, when you're learning posing, that's one opposing thing you want to do. You never typically, you can do whatever you want. It's art. But typically, you don't want to have anything like straight. So by her lifting her shoulder and dipping that other one, it's bringing more organic, natural look to the shot. So I like how you have her tilting her shoulders there, the flow of the hair. My other thing is, for anybody that's new here, David, how did you expose, like when you're looking through the camera, you're not using flash, how do you know how bright to make her face in the camera?
What are you doing? I exposed for the face, really. I underexposed a little bit on the face because I knew I could recover it back. I wasn't worried about what happened in the background because I wanted to get Kiara's face exposed here. So what I did was I overexposed the background. I was concentrating solely on Kiara's face when I was adjusting my exposure. I put it up to the point where her face was completely exposed perfectly, and then I backed it back a little bit because I knew that I could recover it back in post later on because I didn't want to blow out the background completely. If I exposed completely for Kiara's face, the background would have just been gone. So I used the dynamic range here to bring this back in. The lights that you can see in Kiara's face there, it's because it's in a riverbed and the rocks were white and they're all lit up from the front. So she has got a bit of fill from the front. So she's got a natural sort of fill from the front with the rocks that are lighting her up from the front anyway. And what you can do is you can look in your surroundings to see natural reflectors. And even though she was backlit, the rocks at the front there were lighting Kiara up naturally. So it was like a big, massive reflector that was coming in from the front anyway. And that's what I always do when I'm looking for portraits. If I'm shooting natural light, I'll look for natural reflectors like concrete, a brick, a wall, anything that can give natural fill away. And that's how I could get Kiara exposed nicely without using a flash in this case. So, you know, and I'm finding I'm using flash less and less and less.
Yeah, we always talk about that.
Yeah, which is interesting, and you know, and I think the results for that sort of speak for itself. That you know, even though she's heavily backlit, I didn't need to use a flash. Dynamic range does help in this regard, though, too, because the cameras now have such great dynamic range that you can lift the thing later on. And I just sort of had to say, well, I'm going to lose. You can see I've lost all of here. There's no detail left in there at all. I couldn't have kept that unless I used flash and high-speed sync. And I didn't want to do that in this case. I don't mind losing all that detail there. It was just sort of a flowing river, but I thought, well, it's going to go, and I'm not stressed about it at all. It was Kiara's exposure that mattered to me more than what was happening with the ambient, which is sort of 1.8 was basically blown out anyway.
Yeah, and you can see the top of her head's all blown out too.
Yep.
And when you're working with natural light, of course you could move the model in all these different areas to get it like perfectly, but it's, you know, it's like it's a very natural look. I love using natural light, even if you blew some out. The only thing I don't like blowing out, but I know a lot of people do. We had a photographer take me and my wife's photos when we were in Paris a couple times ago, and their style was just let the sky blow out because that's just style. They don't use flash, and it's a pretty style. Everything's just bright and it just looks good. But for me, I don't like blowing out blue skies. But for stuff like this, I mean, it just, yeah, I love it. I mean, Well, I've changed my thinking too, Aaron, because I used to sort of think, well, the problem too is I don't use high-speed sync much anymore, and I went through a stage where I used it a lot
The problem is now when I look at high-speed sync and I look at the images, they always look to me now like they're superimposed. And that's the first thing I look at when I look at a high-speed sync images. I think it's superimposed because it looks almost unnatural. Whereas to me, this image with Kiara, even though the background is, yes, it's slightly blown out, it is definitely in the highlights down the bottom there, but it looks more natural than if I'd probably used high-speed sync and showed everything in the full exposure. They tend to, particularly if you overuse high-speed sync, it definitely looks like it's been superimposed in. You've got to be careful.
Yeah, a lot of people now, I hear people teach this is to make your background a little darker than your subject because you want your subject to pop out. You want them to be the interest. So by blurring your background, you're making them the subject where everybody's eyes go to the subject. And by making them the brightest thing in the scene and everything a little darker, it makes your eyes go to your subject. But this is art. So whatever I say, it doesn't matter. But just my observation that if you do darken the background too much and you have too much flash, or it's like perfect, then it does look a little superimposed, or some people say green screen like. So I would say just brighten the background just a little bit. I would brighten the background a little bit, even if I'm using flash, or darken it just a tad so it looks a little natural. I'm like really big on not using flash, but if I do use flash, which I do quite often, a lot of people always ask me, are you using flash in this? Because they don't know. It's because I'm using the dynamic range of the camera, and I use zebras. So I put my camera on 100 on my Sony a7 III. I put it at 100 plus zebras, and I crank the exposure up till whatever's in the background is blowing out, and then I back it off a little bit, and then I'll introduce. So sometimes I'll just shoot like that and then boost the shadows in post processing. If I have a flash, then I'll just put a little bit of flash on there to help the dynamic range out a little bit, but still maybe boost it a little bit in post. So even though I use flash a lot, it still looks kind of natural. So, yeah.
Well, I think the secret. The secret to good flash work particularly is that people can't tell you've used one.
Yeah, and I always strive for that instead of having a dark background and a big. Sometimes you have to. Yeah. I mean, I've done weddings where it is dark outside, so I have to use a flash, and you could tell. But in most regular type of photo shoot, I just try not to make it look like I have flash.
And see, and then, like I said, I'm going more and more into natural light and continuous light, because if you look at this one, this wasn't shot with the A6400 though. But this was a typical example of the way that I shoot now. Where I shoot with the Pro Photo that I was using here, and I'm matching the ambient lighting to the background lighting. Like flash would have been very, very hard to get this look as nice as what it is, because the beauty with using the continuous lighting particularly is you can see exactly what you're getting. And that's why if you look at this one here particularly, with the way I've lit Kiara up, the color tones are matching exactly what's in the background. And that was done because I could balance the continuous lighting with the ambient lighting to get that beautiful soft look. And I love that look now. And this is usually now the way that I tend to work. I've gone away from using the flash, and if I can, I'll use ambient light with continuous light, which is basically just like using normal lighting that's there. You're just matching everything. And it's a much easier way to get this type of classical look, which I think is quite beautiful. And I would have struggled to get this with flash. It would have taken way more time. This was really quick because I could just see exactly what I was getting. And it just sort of, it's changed the way that I shoot now. I'm using, look, if you're out in the sun, I can't use this because it's not bright enough. But the second that I go into a location where it starts to get darker indoors, late in the day, when the sun's gone down, I'll move immediately to using continuous light. And that's now sort of the way that I've switched to go completely.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. The Tired Tourist says, does Aaron know people are no longer using dial-up? Right now, I had 7 upload earlier. Well, I had 7 upload earlier. Now I have 15 upload. And right before we started, David was saying his internet was crappy for the last couple of days because they're doing 5G stuff. And I'm just wondering if that was going on here, because my internet has been really slow lately, even just browsing the iPad. So sorry if I'm all penalized.
You'd have to just contact them and see why is it going up and down like that.
Tomorrow.
All right, guys. Well, we're at the end of the show. Thank you so much for joining us again today. We'll be back next week. Really love doing these shows. So
love it.
Have you got anything coming up at all, Aaron, or you've been too busy?
No, nothing really, man. Yeah, YouTube for me is a pretty much a non-existent thing for me. It's just I'm working all the time, and I found out that taking the time off of YouTube as I've been just doing so much around the house, and I'm actually kind of like it. I've been cleaning parts of the yard I've never cleaned in a long time, and fixing things in the house. So nothing anytime soon. Next week here, same
Yeah, we'll be back next
same
week.
bat channel.
I'll be back on Friday my time, or your time, I should say. No, it's my time Friday, isn't it? It's Thursday your time. So I'll be back with the usual Sony Alpha news and rumours. Hopefully there's things to talk about. It's going to be quiet. But I should be back with that. I have got reviews coming up. I'll probably have one up later today or early tomorrow. This new head that have been sent. It's probably the best photography head that I've ever had in my life, and it is incredible. I've loved it. So I'm putting that video together now. It's expensive though, so it's not a cheap head. And then I've got a new motorized slider that I'm going to look at and review in the coming days as well, that I'll be showing you as well.
Is it programmable?
Well, you can do it through yes, you can through your phone. Yeah.
Cool.
So it works really good. So I'll show you that in the coming days as well. I've got some other things, but they're sort of down in the pipeline. So I'll have those coming up too. Thank you so much, everyone, for getting into the 30,000. Really appreciate that. I've stuck Aaron's link down below, so you can go to his channel and subscribe to Aaron's channel if you haven't subscribed to him. Apart from that, though, everyone, we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, guys.
Catch you guys. Bye.